Anyone who says to you that being addicted to social media isn't making your life worse is lying to you. Because about 6 weeks ago, I was on the toilet doing my business. Like a lot of people, I automatically got my phone out and started scrolling on Instagram, viewing people's random stories and delving into the deep, dark black hole that is Instagram Reels. And when I eventually came back to reality, I realized that I had been on the bog for over half an hour. I'd stopped shitting a long time ago, and this wasn't the first time that I've fallen into this trap. So out of sheer frustration, I decided at that moment that I wanted to make a change. And now, about 6 weeks later, I can safely say that I've solved my dependency and compulsion towards social media, and it's improved my daily life significantly. So, without further ado, let's get started. A lot of people who try to change their behavior fail to do so because they don't understand a fundamental theory of human behavior that this bloke discovered almost 100 years ago. This is B.F. Skinner. He's a behavioral psychologist, and he realized that the way humans behaved isn't too dissimilar from the rats that he performed experiments on. Skinner came up with this theory known as operant conditioning, that behavior that you are rewarded for by the environment is more likely to be repeated, and vice versa, right? Behavior that you are punished for is less likely to be repeated. The majority of our behavior is almost programmed by what we've always done and been rewarded for in the past. If we actually take a moment to think about it, we do the same shit basically every day, right? You wake up, you hopefully shower and brush your teeth, you get dressed, you have breakfast, you travel to work or school, etc., etc. The first step of this protocol is to understand that your social media use is no different. You don't actually make a conscious effort to pull out your phone and start doom scrolling on social media. It's an automatic habit because you've probably done it every day for multiple years and been rewarded for it because of how the algorithms hijack the reward systems in our brain. And that's why I realized 6 weeks ago that the first step to changing my social media dependency was realizing that I can't just decide to make a change. I have to look at my behavioral programming and actually recondition my habits based on the ideas of Skinner. Now, step 2 is all about how I bridged the gap from an understanding of the theory and the actual changes that needed to be made to alter my habits. And this, I found, was all about creating more friction. Let's imagine for a moment that you are at a nice restaurant and you're deciding what you'd like to eat for lunch. On the menu, there are 2 options, and let's say for argument's sake they both taste just as good and have a similar portion size. The only difference is that one takes double the time to be served to you and is twice as expensive. So which lunch option do you think you would choose? The answer is obvious, right? You would pick the cheaper and the faster option because that option contains less friction. In a similar manner, we often choose our behavior in life to be as frictionless as possible. These are our sort of mundane decisions, the things you do every day, right? Because we want to save what is called our cognitive capacity, which is basically like our brain's mental energy to think and make decisions. We want to save that for more important, novel parts of the day. And this friction bias is incredibly important to know because it means if you want to reduce a certain behavior, you can actually do that by creating more friction. From Skinner's perspective, this means dialing up the punishment and dialing down the reward until that behavior is less likely to be repeated. I turned off notifications from all social media apps and I deleted them off my phone or set a screen time password that I didn't know. And when I didn't want to use my phone, I made sure I kept it away from me, right? In a different room, down a set of stairs, anywhere that just wasn't my desk or the toilet. And I know that although these small little hacks and protocols seem very simple, they were extremely effective, right? Because it's a completely different story going from automatically pulling your phone out, immediately opening up Instagram, following a notification, and then doom scrolling, right? That's a completely different story to having to go to a different room, probably down a set of stairs, re-download the app, and then start scrolling. Because more friction means less reward, and less reward means weaker operant conditioning, and weaker operant conditioning means gradual changes to our behavioral programming over time. So we no longer just automatically open up our phone because it's what we always did. However, there is a big problem behind what we've addressed, and the problem is that you are not the same as the rats in the cages. We are not just mindless machines that can watch a video and immediately switch our behavior. we are human beings with deep emotional experiences and complex belief systems, and it's these belief systems that drive the majority of our behavior. So I realized over the last 6 weeks that to change my social media use for good over the long term, I had to focus on and alter some of my beliefs. But generally, beliefs are pretty resistant to change, right? Because your whole sense of self and experience of reality is based on your beliefs. And as a consequence, when we try and change our beliefs drastically, we create a lot of excuses to avoid doing it. So now we're going to play a game, right, that I like to call Spot the Bullshit. Welcome to Spot the Bullshit, the show where excuses are squashed and lives are changed. The aim of the game is very simple. Me, as the host, I will read a common excuse and our contestant will attempt to spot the bullshit and explain the real truth. Our focus today is on social media use, and our contestant is Joel Clifton, a 19-year-old psychology student from the southwest of England. Joel spends much of his time trying to make himself feel important by creating YouTube videos and chatting shit on a podcast. It's a bit rude, no? Are you ready to get started today, Joel? Yes, sir. Then let's play Spot the Bullshit. Joel, your first excuse is, I need to be active on social media to stay connected with family and friends. Okay, so I heard this idea by author Morgan Housel a little time ago, and it has been rent-free in my brain ever since I heard it. He basically said that social media is better viewed as a place where people perform rather than a place where they communicate. Because think about it, people show a curated highlight reel of their lives online that isn't actually reflecting the reality of their existence, right? So if you genuinely want to connect with people, you shouldn't just be looking at this highlight reel that they present. You should genuinely give them a call and hear about how they're actually doing. Equally, a lot of the stuff and the trash that people post online, you don't actually care about. And if you do, you probably shouldn't, right? That distant family member's new car or that guy you knew from school's political beliefs are just creating more mental noise that distracts you from the things that you might care about more and the things that really matter to you in your life. Correct. Well done, Joel. That's a good start. Are you ready for your second excuse? Well, here it is. Social media is helpful because it helps distract me when I'm bored or upset. Okay, this is a good point that I think a lot of people can relate to, and it's because we use social media to escape from uncomfortable emotional states like boredom and anxiety and fear and sadness. And you know what? It does work for a short time. We can numb our brains and avoid feeling things while we're just ensconced by the technology. But the reality is, I don't think negative emotional experiences can just go away by being distracted. They don't go away. They just become pushed down and bottled up and fester in our system for potentially the rest of our lives if we continue to avoid them. And I think it's a massive problem of the modern world that people can't be comfortable just sitting with their own mind and processing their emotions without any stimulation. However, I do believe if you make a commitment to not just fry your brain when you experience an uncomfortable thought or emotion, then you develop what I call greater mental clarity or peace of mind, say, right? Which is a fundamental characteristic for me of being a happy person, because it connects you to the present moment and allows you to fully take in the joy and beauty that can be found in our human experience. Wow, Joel, 2 out of 3 so far, can't knock it, but here's your third and final, most difficult excuse. Don't I need to have a social media presence to be effective in the modern world? Well, this is an interesting debate, right? But for me, the idea that you can think clearly and focused is much more important than a social media presence. And I think this point will become more and more obvious as time goes on, and the younger generations who have been exposed to content and technology so early in life enter the world of work. I think if you can think clearly and focus and use your brain to a sharp, quick, efficient degree, you'll be indispensable in the economy that we're entering into in the future. On a side note, right, all shitty game show analogies aside, I will leave a link to a book down below that explains a lot more about this. But I do think if you can also maintain the ability to think clearly and have a social media presence, then go for it, right? There can be some positives that come from that, but it's definitely a very fine line. Congratulations, Joel. With 3 out of 3 correct answers, I can safely say that you are this week's winner of Spot the Bullshit. These days, I'm now going to be re-entering the social media landscape with a different approach, a different philosophy. I'm basically trying to expand what I do here on the YouTube channel across all platforms, and we're going to see how it goes, right? It's terrifying, but also exciting as a prospect. And I'm hoping that I can walk that fine line between having a social media presence and not making these apps a problem in my life. So that's the 3-step protocol that I use to end my dependency on social media and not spend 30 minutes or more on the toilet. If you do decide to follow along and try and do this for yourself, let me know how it goes in the comments. And if you don't just want to reset your social media use, but do a bit of overall resetting of your mental health, then you can watch this video here where I revealed a protocol that I use at the beginning of 2024 to do just that. With that said, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully, I'll see you over there.